Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Our first coincidence miracle is from a woman who moved to the United States from the Dominican Republic, and now she is a American citizen. She tells us that in the Dominican Republic, there were many people in her community who were very religious. They practiced their faiths every week, and whenever people were having problems, the whole community would come together and pray. And one of the things that was common as she was growing up was that when people were having trouble, they would start to recite Psalm 23. It seemed like all of the people in the community, whenever they were in difficulty, that was the prayer that helped them the most. And, Psalm 23 says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me beside restful waters. He restores my soul." So that's a prayer, a very famous prayer in the Bible, Psalm 23. She moved to the United States, and one day she was out driving in the wintertime, and she slid into a ditch and totaled the car. And immediately while she was sliding, as she started to slide, she started to say Psalm 23. And she got out of the accident without even a scratch, although the car was totally damaged. Our next coincidence miracle is the same woman from the Dominican Republic. She tells us that when she moved to the United States, she was looking for a church to join. She found a church not too far from her house in the United States, and she joined it about a month after she moved here. And when she did join, there was another woman who also joined on the same day, and they found out during the process of joining, and they were telling everybody in the church where they came from and what city, etc. It turns out they both came from the same city. In fact, they only lived 1/2 mile away from each other, but they never met each other in the Dominican Republic. They even went to the same school, but because there was a 6-year difference in their ages, they were not in the school system at the same time. So these were 2 people who moved to the United States to the same town in the United States, joined the same church, and they're from the Dominican Republic, and they never knew each other there. And they moved here when they were at about the age of 30. So 30 years Dominican Republic, never knew each other, and they meet here certainly a lot of coincidental things happening there. And because it's church-related, I'm certain we're going to call it a miracle. The same woman from the Dominican Republic relates a story to us about when she was still living in the Dominican Republic. She said that she was one of 10 children, and her mother became a widow while the children were still young. Her mother did all she could to survive. She took on any job she could get her hands on, cooking and cleaning and as a maid and working in factories, and sometimes 2 different jobs a day. And they reached a point once in their life where things were really bleak. And the mother gathered everybody around, all 10 children, and they all recited Psalm 23. And when they finished reciting Psalm 23, there was a knock at the door. Turns out that in this community, there were street vendors who used to go by with carts and sell their produce out in the streets. And one of the vendors knocked on the door, and he said that he was told that she could use some help, and he had several things left over at the end of the day, and several of the neighbors had contributed and gave a donation to him, and he was dropping this off as a gift from the neighborhood and from him. They all contributed. And so she relates the story again because she thinks that Psalm 23 is a magnificent prayer to say. It has protected her in many cases, as you just heard, and her 10 siblings also know that from their use of the prayer as well in their lives. Our next coincidence miracle is about me. I had to go and see my cardiologist for an updated follow-up. And on the way over to the cardiologist, I wound up following a car with a plate number 222. And I was praying for good results at the doctor, so I was encouraged by the number 222, 222, because that means in history God is with us 2 by 2 as a friend, as a coach, as a guide, always with us all day long. And the reason it's a coincidence miracle is because when I got out of my doctor's visit, which, by the way, was a favorable visit, EKG and everything was fine, but there was a car parked in front of me with a license plate number 222, a different car. So God was showing me on the way over He was with me, and on the way out He was showing me that He was with me on the inside. Our next coincidence miracle is something else that happened to me. I was Googling and doing some research on the internet, looking up some information, and for some reason, I guess I typed the wrong keys, but they turned out to be wonderful errors because I wound up noticing on YouTube that the famous actor Denzel Washington had given a commencement exercise lecture. It ran about, I think, 8 minutes or so. But the topic of his lecture, the commencement lecture, was why I chose Jesus. And I'm bringing it up for all of you now because if you take 10 minutes and Google Denzel Washington and in open quotes, why I chose Jesus, you'll see the commencement exercise speech, which I'm telling you is really something well worth your time to spend 8 minutes listening to. Unbelievable about his life and how much God had protected him and helped him to become very successful. And now he helps a lot of people, but his whole message to everyone graduating that day was to trust in God and talk to God and follow God's guidance. And he made excellent points, so I couldn't resist putting it on the show today to help anybody out there who likes Denzel Washington as an actor. You'll see some wonderful godly gifts that he has received in life if you Google. It's on YouTube. Again, it's Denzel Washington, the actor, and his talk is Why I Chose Jesus as a commencement exercise topic. Our next topic is one night I was inspired to go check what was on TV for the week and pre-program and pre-record some things that were worthwhile. And as soon as I turned the TV on, coincidentally, as soon as I turned it on, there was a special right on there, and I immediately recorded it. It was about a place in Spain called Zaragoza, spelled Z for zebra, Zaragoz for zebra, A. So it's Zaragoza, Spain. One more time. Zaragoza, Spain, spelled Zaragoza. And the story that was there was so amazing. There's a shrine there for Mary, the mother of Jesus, and the legend has it, and there's amazing evidence that it's true, that the Blessed Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus, had appeared there 2,000 years ago, before she died, before she passed away. She appeared there alive one night because St. James was there having trouble evangelizing the area, and he needed help, and she appeared, and a pillar appeared there as well. And they've proven that the pillar is made out of the same materials as the pillar where Jesus was scourged before his crucifixion. And there's an aroma on the pillar in Zaragoza. The aroma that you can smell there is the same aroma that you smell in Jerusalem, where Jesus was crucified and where he was scourged at the pillar. So again, if you have time and you want to Google Zaragoza, Spain, the Shrine of the Blessed Virgin Mary, you'll be glad you did. It's an amazing story with great evidence that it's a true story. Our next coincidence miracle is similar to many miracles like this you've heard already if you've been listening every week. I'm telling it again because this kind of a thing happens to me personally about 40 or 50 times a year, and that almost comes out to once a week. And that's why I'm relating it to you, because it's very significant. It tells us a lot about God and his love of us. And so, as you know, I pass out cards about my book and my lectures and the radio shows, trying to help everybody I can to learn and experience what I have found in my life, that God is our best friend. And I was passing out cards at a park one day, as I usually do. I go to parks and do that. And I was passing out cards, and I was inspired to go over and give a card to a couple, a married couple. They asked me what the book was about. I told them basically it's about how God does talk to us, and if we ask him questions and do what he's telling us, his inspirations and his ideas, it works like mental telepathy. You ask him a question and it works like mental telepathy when you get your answers from him. And if you do those things, you start experiencing miracles. And I told him the key message of the book, after 54 years of living the life I did, trying to use these principles, is to ask God what to do before you do things, and it helps you to be more peaceful and more successful when you're doing things. Well, they were startled because as they were looking at me while I was talking, they asked me to turn around and look. The sky had lit up with a tremendously beautiful rainbow, and they related to me that they were talking about rainbows before I came by to talk to them. And they were also talking about earlier today that they have to stop fretting about everything, about all their children and all of their children's problems and their company's problems, etc., etc., and they have to start asking God what to do. So they felt this was an epiphany. A rainbow appeared in the sky after I gave them the card, and I told them the book is about asking God everything to wind up having peace when you're making decisions, and they said that's exactly what they were talking about today. So it was a miracle for them and me as well. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.